Hello, crisis report here. And there is a lot happening in Russia right now, and we're going to take a look at it live. But before we get in, if you're new here, which most of you would be if you're watching this, this is Crisis Report, where we cover crisis around the world, mostly been focusing on Ukraine and the Russian conflict there. So please smash the please smash the subscribe button if you're new. And everyone, hopefully this earns a like. All right. I know we don't have anybody watching just yet. This is a small channel. I normally, I have another history. Let me get off this repeating image. I'll get off that. Sorry. Another YouTube channel in which I talk about history, but I have been covering what is going on in Russia recently. I'll close other windows that are popping up here. All right. First off, I want to say very clearly, I am not a Russia expert. I don't speak Russian, and to be an expert on Russia or any country, you need to, at minimum, speak the language, which I don't. But I do want to take a look at what is going on here. I think this is important. I think this will have ramifications out 50, 60 years in ways. We will see how that goes. Right. Let's take, okay. When I first heard about what was going on, I was very skeptical. I am very skeptical about a lot of things, and I was hesitating to cover this. I do have a few contacts in the region, and by that I mean some, and I don't want to be very specific because of certain things, some in Ukraine, some in Russia, that feed me, stories that are open source. So that is partially where I get some of my information. All of my information is, in essence, open source information. But really said it to me that this is not a internet not hoax, but an internet contrived thing or wishful thinking. Is this post by TASS? This is an official Russian news source. I don't trust it at all. Okay, clearly, and I will be talking about what I trust and don't trust to whatever degrees here. I don't trust it at all, but I do want to hear what they have to say. And when TASS comes on and says Sergey Surovikin, hopefully I'm getting that close, calls on Wagner, private military corporation, company, not sure, the PMC, to resolve problems peacefully, do not aid enemy. That tells me that if they are tweeting this, there's something serious going on. Because if they didn't tweet this, they would want to hide it until it's resolved. They would not want to report on it until it's resolved. So we know TASS, and this is right now the most recent thing in TASS. We can refresh it just to see in the last few minutes. No. 10 hours ago, Russian President Vladimir Putin is aware of the situation that is unfolding around the head of Wagner Group, founder, and necessary measures are being taken. Now, I've called this, and hello to the viewers out there, there are a few now. I've called this in the title, Failed Russian Coup by Wagner Group. Why do I call it that? And you know what? Again, I don't know what the hell's going on. Okay, I'm not going. We're going to take. I have a bunch of stuff that I've set up, and we will take a look at, mostly coming from Twitter, from both sides of the conflict and whatever, however you want to call it, looking at the actions that are happening. But many years ago, back when it was first written, I read a book. Sorry, not wrote. I read a book, Coup d'etat, a practical manual by Gregor Ferguson, and it was published in 1987. So it is an excellent book. I hope if you are going to be successful in doing a military coup or any sort of coup d'etat, doesn't have to be military, it can be non-military coup d'etat. Police can do it, or just a bunch of armed people. I hope you've read the book. It is out of date because it is in the basically pre-internet age, definitely before the www happened. And so, and it's already took too long. So from that book, this coup has already failed. So we have a failed coup here. But I want to look at here. We can just watch this again. Head of Wagner Group arrives at headquarters at Rostov-on-Don. Okay. So what is this guy doing? It's this guy here. He still has a Russian flag on his baseball cap. He is wearing, body armor, carrying an assault weapon, looking muy macho. I don't know who this guy is, though. He looks sort of traditional Russian. Equipped, but so he has, and I don't know that anybody here can translate this. Okay, got some more bodyguards around. Why? I mean, is this just for the cameras? Or are they really thinking there's going to be a sniper coming in and we're putting guys with bulletproof vests around them? Maybe, See, right there. That is why this coup has failed. The first thing you want to do, even more important than capturing, two primary things you need to do, and it's been 30 years since I read the coup d'etat book, but two primary things you want to do if you are going to stage a coup. The first one is capture the means of communication, right? That is the first thing you want to do. Back in the day, it was, now radio obviously is dispersed in that unless you're running jamming on it, and you also jam yourself as you jam the enemy, you're not going to necessarily do it, but you want to shut down telephone communication. Back in the day, and still to this day, through the telephone, that's where you call up, people in bed, the reservists, the local military leaders, the local political leaders, whatever. They get called on the phone. Come in now. There's a coup happening. That kind of things happen. So you want to get to telephone communication. It's no longer landline, of course, but there are major telephone communication hubs this day. And the other was, back in the day, radio and television stations. You want to grab those first, because even, you may go think, oh, we're going to have a coup, we need to grab the president first. Yeah, that would be good, but if you could get on to the radio in the first few minutes of the coup happening and saying, the president has surrendered and signed a decree that turns the government over to the new guy. Even if you haven't made it to the presidential palace, everybody hearing that on the radio and television thinks, oh, this coup's already over. I better just go back to bed and show up to work. We'll wait a day, show up to work and praise the new leader. So communications in the coup is more important than securing the opposing leader. To the best of my knowledge, because I'm getting tweets out from TASS, they have not done it. They did not seize communications effectively. And because if they don't seize communications, Wagner Group can all be surrounding the Kremlin with Putin inside, and they're calling on loyal Russian units to come and relieve Putin, and they may show up like the siege of the White House in Russia back in the days of Yeltsin. So that there's why I call this a failed coup. Now, this may turn into a civil war or something else. I don't know. I don't see how he survives this. I don't see how he survives. I'm not. I'm saying this because like I say, I don't know what the hell's going on. And I know there's just a few people watching here. I see right now 3 options for him, and one, he doesn't survive. 2, he's the next leader of Russia. 3, he gets sanctuary somewhere, shall we say, in the West. That's it. That's the only 3 options I see. Because if there's a negotiated settlement here with Putin and crew, he's dead anyways. They'll kill him within a year or 2. You know, the old umbrella with the poison needle thing or something. They'll take him out. He's a dead man. Even if he gets out to the West sanctuary, there'll still be an attempt to kill him. So if he succeeds in bringing down Putin, but there's a new leader can't let this guy stay alive, because the new leader does not want a coup against himself, not necessarily by him, but by somebody else in the future. So they have to learn that when you swing at the king, you better take his head, or if you miss, you're dead. So I can't see how he survives, unless somehow, because again, I don't know what the hell's going on in Russia, and I don't pretend to. Unless he somehow is the leader when all this comes, even just the figurehead. But if he's coming out as the leader, yeah, that's how he survives. Maybe he knew that if the internal politics may have gotten squeezed to the point that he thought he was dead anyways, for whatever reason, that if he fled to the West, he would be treated as a criminal, where now he might be treated as a hero. So I don't know if this is his exit strategy, and he's just going to fuck all of his men. So yes, let's continue here. So we have this hard evidence. I presume this is the correct building, as stated earlier today. All right, let's take another look at another.
Вон вам пулеметчики, здравствуйте. Я хуею, ребята, блядь, это
Okay.
пизда.
Now here they're besieging a building, and
Пизда.
they're not obviously not being fired upon. Civilians live streaming Wagner Group assault on the headquarters of the Russian Defense Ministry in Rostov. So that's the building that we saw the leader at before. And so this is obviously here. Okay, let's look back here. Okay, so they've got a tank, you know, a proper tank. A lot of times the media calls things like that tanks. That's not a tank, but That is a tank. Okay, so they're looking around there. So, not very fiery and mostly peaceful. Guys here having a smoke. And let's look over here. More from the same. There's the tank. Now, notice they've gone to a red Z. I don't know if that is standard for Wagner or been done for this. Coup with balloons. Is that like happy birthday or something? Or I don't know. Again, I do not speak Russian, read Cyrillic, or anything like that. Notice how these things always happen to have a supply of stones laying around. I don't know about that. That seems very odd. And hello, people out there. Yes, we will be taking a continued look at video from the current coup that may be a bit older. And let's go through Visegrad here. And again, I want to state, I am not a Russian expert. I don't know what's going on. I'm not pretending to tell you that. I am, we're just taking a look at various sources and what they're saying is going on. Okay. Visegrad. Visegrad 24. I find this a very useful Twitter account, as I say, aggregating and curating news. It does have a viewpoint. I'm not saying it is neutral. And this is an important note here. Their website's down. Don't know where they are located, but their website in their thing is down. I don't know if that has anything, and they are sort of, Eastern Europe, as I would call them, but I don't know if that's anything to do with current activities, or just they forgot to pay their domain name or their web hosting or whatever. I don't know. Belarusian soldiers fighting for Ukraine say it's for them to take control of Belarus. Okay, that's BS. Two dudes, whatever. Breaking group of Russian soldiers have capitulated to Wagner Group near the Bugevka border crossing in the Vorosh region. Okay, so again, and I have looked at many thousands, tens of thousands of photos of militaries over the years from various wars. Okay, so here, and just so we are going to do a bit of photo analysis here. These guys are all fairly well dressed, though of course not in any sort of matching uniforms, including not even matching camos when they are in it. But all of their gear, not just weapons, but all their gear has been removed. What you would do with the people that would be somewhat prisoners of war. Okay, 14 minutes ago. Well, let me just do a quick refresh just to get the latest, so we get the latest count time here. Okay, so yeah, 14 minutes ago. Breaking, Putin said he won't give up. He added, the coup pushes us towards defeat, so our response will have to be brutal. That's what I was expecting here. Again, I do not speak Russian, so we are going with what other people are translating for. Everyone participating in it will be punished. All leaders, like I said, with the head of it, will not survive this, or, well, deep prison maybe for a few if they feel they're useful. Those who started the coup betrayed Russia and will be made responsible. Yeah, so the leaders basically are dead, if he has anything to say about it. The response will be brutal. That means executions, I'm sure. I mean, not like trials and whatnot. That's complete execution here. Bewildered Russian TV host as Putin's speech continues to be pushed forward meaning it's not going now. So wait, delay. Right now we're going to commercials and more commercials. Right. Okay. Like I say, this is a failed coup. You've got to secure the TV stations and that kind of thing to create public perception. Now, this is just sort of a funny thing here. Wagner soldiers orders burgers from a former McDonald's. Civil war may. Now, this may, like I said, the coup has failed. This may turn into a civil war. And like I say, I don't know what the hell's going on. What the hell could, so I can pronounce his name. I know who. Okay. Prigozhin. Prigozhin. We'll call him Prigozhin. Sorry if I'm butchering this. I'm sure I am. Prigozhin. Like I say, I don't see how he survives. He, I don't. He knows what's going on in the Russian military regime. He knows if the Russian army generally and the Russian higher military hierarchy is sick of this war, feels this war is a disaster, they may be using him to create a coup. And that may be what's going on. Prigozhin, I don't know. Wagner Group, Russian military. Moscow declares counter-terrorist regime to give Russian security forces increased powers to deal with Prigozhin's military coup. Takes control. Yes, in Zorov. I think we have a map there. Okay. According to this, Wagner has shot down a third Russian helicopter. These things I don't necessarily trust. Not saying they're wrong. I just too much of a viewpoint. Okay. Large military heading towards Moscow. Well, I don't know the timestamp on, not on the tweet, but on when this, and I don't know, are these all military vehicles or military, because obviously some are quote unquote civilian vehicles, but are they, confiscated civilian vehicles with military personnel in them? How do we get enough trucks and whatnot to get our gear and personnel up to Russia right now, or up to Moscow right now? Yes, Putin will, and as he has spoken on, supposedly I've not seen the actual video of it, on Russian television, that is incredibly important to look strong in the midst of a coup. Blocks are being set up at the ends of Moscow. Russia's on edge after. Okay, that is silly, ridiculous, and I guess could only be useful in escaping people from. Okay, hello, folk. Is as in judge is the. Well, folk, how you doing, my friend? If you could type out a good phonetic pronunciation, not just of the ZH, but everything, it would be very helpful. Folk is a friend here. So, yeah, folk, I love pronunciation. Okay, Russian forces here, and this is 2 hours ago, reported. I don't know, this is 2 hours old. I don't know when this was done. Okay, headquarters in St. Petersburg, so that is up near Finland, according to that report. Again, some of the earlier. This is that where they were supposedly seeing the military convoy. So this is where they've taken over the military headquarters. This is the Donbass. There's Kharkov and Kiev. I continue to use the old Western pronunciations of these terms. Fads don't get to me. So they're heading here. So that is Prigozhin. Prigozhin. Okay, and
Находимся в
here.
штабе. 7 часов 30 минут утра. Под контролем. Санитарные борта в режиме. Проблема телевизору. Санитарных пасов нет.
Like I say, I think he's a dead man. That's my my considered opinion of what's going to happen there. Russian military helicopter just struck 2 vehicles of the Wagner column, according to this. Yes, you want to delay their movements. Russian military switching sides. Yeah, this is the one. Like I say, I do not know what's going on. I don't claim to know what's going on. I'm just looking at what we are getting reports of. And here, supposedly, second helicopter. See, I just don't know if this is the second helicopter or the other one is the third, and the third maybe just this guy from whatever the other direction is on this road. That so two reports, same. 2 differing reports, same. Okay. In Smolensk, Russian army enters the city. Don't know why that would be terribly useful. I don't know what these police are going to do against guys with AK-47s. I mean, yeah, they can shoot back, but why? I mean, what's the point there? To try to reassure the public that Putin is in charge? I do not know. Okay, I want to. Okay. We did take a look here. Let's take a look at their feed. Open source intelligence monitors focus, just giving you my sources here, on Europe and conflicts across the world. Retweet does not equal endorsement. Neither is that here. It's often for information. War Monitor is somebody we will also be looking at here shortly. Okay, so 3 minutes ago that this was lots of driving on roads. Now, one thing we are seeing lots of driving on roads, especially by that supposed Wagner column. Again, I'm using language very carefully here. That they're just driving down the highways. They're not worrying. They're not in armored fighting vehicles. They're not worrying about being ambushed or attacked, which is interesting. Okay, so Putin, President Putin now addressing the nation 37 minutes ago. As of this as I'm broadcasting this, we are fighting for the right to remain Russia. Is Wagner Group going to be not Russia? That doesn't make sense. A state with 1,000 years of history. Oh yeah, there's 1,000 years of history there for sure, with lots of coups and attempted coups and failed coups, including going after Peter the Great. Oh boy, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what that actions that are being carried out now are apostasy from the nations. That doesn't make sense to me. This is a stab in the back of our country and our people. Well, it's a stab in the back for you, for sure, Putin. Maybe it's an attempt to, keep from going down, keep from collapsing your country. Okay, so here again, we saw the one photo before at the Buyakov checkpoint. This is just south of that town that we looked at the map. They're estimating 180. So lined up here. Yeah, these guys. I mean, they're sort of, because he was probably the guy on duty, watching the checkpoint with his brassard there. I guess that's what you'd call that. And definitely, as in surrendered. sort of kind of prisoners, though obviously they're probably being guarded, but not very closely. Russian stated, okay, yeah, set to address the nation. Right, let's take a look at War Monitor here. All right. Again, we'll refresh this, get the latest as time. Okay, Wagner billboards are being taken down in Moscow. Interesting. So somebody's finding the time to take down a billboard in Moscow. How interesting. Wagner affiliate Telegram. Pip is Putin. Okay, thanks for that. Pip made the wrong choice. So much worse for him. Soon we will have a new president. Again, this is, if the Wagner guy is going to be the president, that is his, I see the only real way he survives this. And I don't know Russian politics well enough to know how likely that outcome is even practically possible. But, stranger things have happened. Head of the Crimean has declared support for Vladimir Putin. Okay, so down in Crimea, I presume that's, I don't know what, ask Yovnov. I got to hear these things once to be able to pronounce these words. But that's down, what had been Ukraine. So that suspected Wagner. Yeah, okay. I like when they use things. Deep state map. Okay, so down there on Rostov-on-Don. Yeah, we've seen that. Guy getting McDonald's. Wagner began to set up roadblocks. Okay. I don't know what the purpose of these roadblocks are. Yeah, obviously to block the road. Hello. Russian army, of course, foresaw this move. Those guys play chess. They left Wagner invade with no resistance. Hello, ABC. How you doing? Gonna solve two problems at once. Yeah. Like I say, I am not pretending to be a Russia expert. Again, to be a Russia expert, you better speak the language, because that tells you about the culture, tells you about what people are actually saying. I'm just looking at what is going on and trying to interpret what I see from many years of watching events like this and studying history. So I do have a background, but it is not a Russian focused one. Now, like I say, I don't know, the head of Wagner, he's either, in my opinion, either dead or he's going to be the next president of Russia. Because, like you say, the Russian army and elements within the Russian army may even be encouraging this event. But you cannot have somebody overthrowing a state. The new leaders are going to be terrified of this precedent, so they will want to make sure that nobody else does the same thing again. And that's not just like in the next 5 weeks, it's in the next 50 years. So one way or another, either he becomes the new czar of all the Russias, or he somehow flees, or, I can't see him, short term, they may let him live, but I can't see long term. And so like this is, okay, there's like a commercial truck here, some cars backed up. What, they don't want this truck to go pick up his delivery or go home from his delivery? They don't want to let these people go home from work? What's the point of this? I'm serious. In the olden days, and I mean back in like the 80s, you would do something like this because you've cut the telephone network and you want to control spaces. You want to control information flows. What's this going to stop? This is, this is supposedly Wagner. I mean, I'm just seeing the V's here on the trucks. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do a new armband color here. They're going to a trap. Wagner became a problem, and Putin couldn't act without a reason. Oh, okay. So what you're saying is the Russian army encouraged this to get Wagner to make the coup, to give him an excuse to eliminate at least the Wagner leadership. Yeah. Okay. Maybe that could be. I could see that scenario playing out. So people getting home from work at night or going to work in the morning or whatever, I don't see how this really affects much. And yeah, there's probably not a lot of rear area armor running around, but because it's all up, on the front or something. But I've been told by a lot of people, oh, Russia is just getting ready for the major offensive come spring. We're now in summer. Oh, this summer it's going to be here. Well, okay. Major Russian offensive coming, going to crush Ukraine. Russia's going to take out Ukraine. Now, I think the population of Russia is approximately 3 times the size of Ukraine. And I know people are new here. I have friends, shall we say, on both sides of the border in Russia, and I'm not going to dox anybody here. Don't worry. From what I'm getting from Ukrainian people, overwhelmingly are behind the defense of their nation. So they're roughly 40-some million people or whatever, highly motivated to defend themselves. Russia's 150 or so million people are not highly motivated to crush Ukraine. Okay, that is very clear. They are not, so they're not highly motivated to die in the crushing of Ukraine, where the Ukrainians are highly motivated to defend Ukraine and willing to die to do so. So that number disparity between the two, the population size, the economic size, could say the war production size, because Ukraine before this had been known for armaments manufacturing and munitions manufacturing, but not in huge lots. Now, of course, you have much of the West pumping in, particularly munitions, but now even more so armaments, tanks and whatnot coming into Ukraine. And we have not seen anywhere a massive Russian offensive. We've seen gradual territory being taken in places like Bakhmut, but no big crushing encirclements, no big. And so I've just been waiting for that other shoe to drop for Russia, presuming, and I'll get to some of the chats here, presuming that they were sort of being smart and that they had forces deployed in the front lines, if you will, and they were continuing to fight and continuing to push while organizing up whole, fresh, new, ready-to-go forces and getting them all ready to go, and then go in big time instead of another battalion this week, another battalion next week, and instead of feeding them in piecemeal, getting ready to go in and crush. And they still may be doing that. But if that's what they were planning, the Wagner Group people, the Russian army, all know about it because they're plugged into what's going on. And if there's significant Russian reserves for this so-called massive offensive that was ready to happen any day, those forces can be turned around on this very rapidly if they're motivated and willing to fight the Wagner people. I don't know that they are, but if they are. And this freaking roadblock ain't going to stop shit. Because sure, they might have a few RPG-7s. It looks like they have, I don't know, a Deshka or a 23 millimeter or maybe 14.5 millimeter machine gun or something in the back of that pickup truck. But that looks like about it for heavy weapons, but that's hardly a heavy weapon. So any sort of military unit coming down this road, this ain't going to stop shit. And it's silly. So I don't know what they're trying. This is the kind of thing you might do if you're trying to catch a fugitive or fugitives, like um, uh, Russian military or Russian political leadership that is trying to flee the area. That's about the only thing. And then that, i.e., through cell phones and other things, you just the car that turns off and heads off, or somebody gets out and goes walking around. I don't, I see them going some other way. They will justify the use of nukes on Ukraine over the existence threat of the invasion. I don't think this helps in a propaganda sense. I'm not saying Putin wouldn't use a nuke in Ukraine. And again, I have people that would probably be heavily affected by that. Friends, I mean, not like family, but friends that would be affected by that. But I don't really think so. This is a dumb strategy, since more damage done by an overt attempt. Oh, yeah, no, this shows incredible weakness on the part of Russia. And I don't know how. The world often gets a very wrong opinion about what's happening in America from their news media. The quote-unquote January 6th insurrection, and they use the term insurrection because they are trying to keep people that were involved in it, particularly Trump, who wasn't involved in it, who called for them not, made public statements, go home. Because those that are involved in insurrection cannot be elected to Congress because dealing with the American Civil War. So they specifically use that term. But what you had there was a bunch of demonstrators, a few of them break some glass and storm into a building that had zero security over the standard operating security of the normal day. Meaning not like, oh, well, hey, there's going to be a big to do. They did not bring in really any extra security. Oh, a few extra, the Capitol Police guards, yeah. But that's deploying all around the building. And some of it just to watch protesters. Protesters we see all the time in America, from the right and the left, protesters. And sometimes in very large numbers. You're just peacefully marching down the street in 10,000 people. But where Trump offered the heads of the Senate and the House, because either one of them could have approved it, to deploy National Guard around the Capitol building and other places just as crowd control, which they turned that down. But once they were starting the January 6 hearings, they put the National Guard around the Capitol. So that is just protests that got out of hand, I would say. This is an attempt at, I don't know if this is an attempt at a coup. I know they're calling this, and this is a failed coup in my opinion, because I don't see how they can possibly win. This is definitely some sort of insurrection, and I know I'm using that term because it's an armed protest. Again, other than supposedly shooting down 2 or 3 helicopters, I've not seen evidence of fighting. Because all of taking over the Rostov military district, it looked like one tank, some armored personnel carriers, and a bunch of guys moving some machine guns around, while other guys were sitting there smoking with an equivalent of a Russian law rocket over his shoulder. So it was just more besieging, not necessarily fighting, for the facility there. And again, once you realize you're not getting reinforcements, you sort of give in. Okay, looks weak, but it's supposed to look that way. They build up confidence to advance until their military reaches the Russian kill zone. No, but you see, what looks weak is him. He looks weak. I understand what you're saying, ABC. You're talking tactically look weak, but it looks like his regime is weak. I can't imagine the idea of American, British, Japanese, Chinese, okay, Wagner, they're a private military corporation, mercenaries. I have trouble, the America uses them over in the sandbox, which is one of the terms for the Middle East or whatever. Yeah, because they can augment the size of forces, and they're often used not for storming anything, but security. Mall cops in combat zones, often securing locations and securing supply convoys and stuff like that, where they're shooting, but where they're just sort of defensive operations, not offensive operations. The idea of using them so heavily on your own border within what you sort of wish to be your current or future territory, I can't see China doing it. I can't see the US doing it. I can't see somebody like, well, I mean, if you wanted the Gurkhas or something for Britain, but that's different. They're officially part of the British military. So I don't know what's AP. Meanwhile, Ukrainian troops advance. Putin will say that they take over Russia. Public opinion. I don't know what the Russian people believe. I don't know what the Russian people believe. Let's just look basic my Twitter account here. Again, hey, you can follow Crisis Report 1 here to get that. Okay, 7 minutes. Wagner reacts to Putin's speech. He made the wrong decision. Too bad for him. We will have a new president soon. I don't know who would likely be the new president, whether they're thinking Wagner. I don't know if Wagner has any political background here. Okay, National Guard. Is this the people they're trying to stop here? These guys in these gray trucks, whatever they are. I don't know what they are. I'm not going to presume. Well, that may be the case. Okay.
Вагнеровцев в центре Ростова. Я только что
Right. New Zealand Prime Minister cannot recognize reality in that he says Xi Jinping is not a dictator. Okay. I mean, the form of Chinese government is maybe up to the Chinese people whether they have an emperor of China, a dictator, a popularly elected president, or whatever. That may be a reasonable position, but that, yeah. Okay. 1 hour ago, supposedly. Okay, let's take a look at this. Okay. Okay, yeah, just the fender's torn up and the sort of dozer blade there is a bit wonky. Okay, but otherwise it's looking in good shape. Just looking at the condition of the vehicle here. And I guess they saw uprising from miles away. So the CIA acted the best. Yeah.
Только маски наденьте, пожалуйста.
I would not put this down to the... Okay, hold on. I would not put this down to the CIA. Let's look down here. Okay, it's the same scene with BTR or some Soviet tanks. Okay, 2 of them here. We're only seeing the one. And no, I'm not good enough to recognize from what Soviet tanks. But definitely current use types, not necessarily current production, but current use types going on. Oh, this. Okay. Rostov-on-the-Don is clearly Russian territory. So we have, I'm going to break down this situation right now, ABC. Rostov-on-the-Don is clearly Russian territory. It is not disputed with anybody that I know of that it's not Russia. Mariupol and the Donbass, is claimed by both sides. I think it clearly had been international agreements that it was Ukrainian. Crimea, also again, international agreements, including by Russia as being Crimean, signed by Boris Yeltsin and crew, I believe. But they did, they accepted that it was Crimea. I think it was Brezhnev or Khrushchev or something gave Crimea sort of to the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, or whatever it was called back then, obviously in Russian. So, but it was accepted. So, but Rostov-on-the-Don is Russian territory. And I'm trying to equate this whether, say, if the U.S. decided to go in and take over northern Mexico or something like that. And I thought, would America use PMCs in that operation? And my first thought was, no, it's close to home. There would be no reason. And I thought, well, maybe, if there's, because one of the things that the PMCs would do would be, guarding supply lines, like truck convoys and whatever else. And so maybe you might hire what you would consider maybe local loyalist, Mexicans that you thought were on your side, or other peoples that were willing to join up for the paycheck. Yeah, maybe internal security type things in your controlled areas, we might use it. We would not use it for storming the equivalent of Bakhmut, storming Acapulco or something like this. But if we had been occupying, and obviously it would be super easy for even with the cartels controlling their, and we might, because we've got, the last time we really properly invaded Russia was not Russia, sorry. We did invade Russia once. Does anybody know when and where we invaded Russia? Say so now. Me, without Googling. But we did. When we last invaded Mexico was 1914, I believe, or 1915. 1914 or 1915, Blackjack Pershing takes the U.S. Army into Mexico to hunt Pancho Villa after he had attacked, I forget which, I think in Texas, a U.S. border, a town across the U.S. border, not right on the border. Maybe El Paso, but I'm not sure. He comes in there, kills a few people, with a few hundred of his Mexican bandits, revolutionaries, whatever the hell, and goes back in, and the U.S. sends down Blackjack Pershing in an invasion, and gets absolutely zero opposition from the Mexican army, because this was not a political invasion of Mexico. I'll say that way. Obviously, it was a military invasion of Mexico, because it was to hunt Pancho Villa, which, of course, the Mexican army was like, hey, if you can catch him, good on you guys. I mean, they were, the government was protesting and embarrassed that they, either couldn't defend their border and or couldn't stop the bandits, in which there, I believe it was only two. They only had one firefight with the Pancho Villa's troops, not Pancho Villa. And I believe they killed only two, but maybe it was two or three of the Pancho Villa revolutionaries and they went way deep into Mexico, not just like across the border, way deep into Mexico. And folk, if he's around, might know whose command, and maybe even who actually shot the two Mexican revolutionaries, and how he brought them back to camp. Well, there was this young officer, I'm not sure his rank, who was put in charge of a reconnaissance force I believe it's probably one of, and I know it's the first. There may have been multiple first, meaning more than one reconnaissance element at the time, but they're the first motorized reconnaissance force, at least used externally. I don't know if earlier there by the United States Army. Folk doesn't know. Okay, I thought I told the story enough in folks' hearing. Reconnaissance force is going in, driving Model T cars. Again, I don't remember the officer's rank at the time. His name was George Patton. Going in, dashing about, and he surprised some of the Villaistas, Pancho Villa's men, and had a quick little firefight. Most of them fled. Two of them, I believe it's two, but it's like 2 or 3 shot, and he may have actually been the one. Again, George S. Patton Jr., his father was senior, was a medalist in the Olympics for pistol shooting. Silver, bronze, something like that. I mean, so he, not a gold medal, but a medalist in the Olympics for shooting. So yes, he is that good of a pistol shot to be the one to take these down. But I'm not sure if he claims to be the one to take them down. So he took the only 2 enemy casualties taken, and he ties the bodies over the hoods of his cars and drives them back to base. Because he had 2, I believe it was 2 Model Ts with like 4 people in each Model T. So drives it back like you would a deer over the hood of the Model T. That was Patton before he goes to World War I under Blackjack Pershing's command. So yeah, Patton was that good of a pistol shot. Patton was the only U.S. officer to actually engage the Pancho Villa's men. The rest, they just never could catch them. They just kept fleeing enough, and the Mexican army was either not interested in enough or not, quick enough to ever catch them, be as a blocking force. So that was a big sort of nothing burger, but that was the last time, 110 years ago, approximately, that we invaded militarily Mexico. So I'm thinking because of the cartels along the Mexican border, we might do something like that again, not to like necessarily take over Mexico or northern Mexico, but just to, squash the cartels or something. We might do that because we could use SIGINT and really identify who a lot of those people are before they have enough, smarts to keep it quiet and go in there and capture or kill most of them and turn them over to the Mexican government in large batches. That might happen someday. It's within the realms of possibilities, maybe not probabilities, but possibilities. So if we were to do something like that, and if we were to hire a military force even made up of Americans, maybe like a non-woke private military company or something that could actually fight, that would be like them maybe coming back into American territory, taking over Brownsville, Texas. I didn't want to go San Diego because San Diego is a very big city, but taking over something like Brownsville, Texas. So we now have a non-state actor, not foreign, but a non-state actor controlling, even if it's momentarily, Russian territory. That looks fucking weak, people. And this isn't like Chechnya or some other state within the quote-unquote Russian Federation. This is Russian territory. And I maybe I didn't specify that so much in there at the beginning. It's Russian territory. So this looks super weak on Russia's part, that their military control has collapsed so badly that they're now, having non-state control over that. Okay, that's why Wagner is doing it, taking supplies on the way. Yeah, I don't think MOD left a lot, just enough to encourage Wagner to advance. Yeah. What are the Wagner artillery ranges? Do you know? Oh, well, I don't know if Wagner has any artillery. I have not seen any artillery in any of these videos. And I'm not presuming anything. And again, like I want to say clearly, I am not pretending. I know there's a lot of people coming out of the woodwork. I am not pretending to be a Russian expert. I'm just an observer of history. I know history. I know a lot about the militaries. And we're just taking a look at what is being reported right now, okay? That's all we're doing. This is old. Okay. This is 10 hours ago. Okay, what is this picture saying? Okay, body language, attitude. Okay, that just may be Russian. This, I believe, is, Sergey, Russian general. Okay, so he's a Russian general. I'm not exactly, okay. Let me just see. I want to see if we can find out his job. Yes, he has a Wikipedia page. Okay. Currently, he is commander of the Joint Group Forces in the Special Military Operations Zone. Okay, so he is the current commander of the Ukrainian invasion. So the current commander of the Ukrainian invasion. Oh, Russia's collapsing, ABC. No, I don't mean just today. I mean over recent times. I remember the Soviet Union. I'm that old. Hello, James C. James C., I am not claiming to be any sort of a Russian military expert. I am examining what is going on here. So I'm not claiming to be good at this. But look at what this is. Look at it in his hand. See, what I want to say, look at his hand. That's a PDW, and I can't quite identify, personal defense weapon. Looks like it has a suppressor on it. But no, I do not know what it is, and I actually am something of a small arms guy. But I can't quite identify that. Okay, so, yeah, he's not in battle armor or whatever, but he's not wearing, he's wearing sort of field clothes, if you will. Why does he feel the need to have a gun on camera? And that he's so worried about his personal safety that any moment Wagner troops may burst in on him and he needs to fight for it? What is this? What is he saying with this? You have to, whenever you look at these things, and I'm sorry, James, you don't think I'm good at this, but you have to look at. He may be just terrible at fourth and fifth generational warfare, controlling what people understand is going on. But why have a gun there that he's sort of holding in his hand that's not quite off camera, but not quite front and center? It's not like he has a holster, that it's just always there. It's not like he has it strapped on as battle gear across his chest and just sort of ignoring it because he always has it there. No, he's holding it in his hand. I would say somewhat awkwardly, he's balancing it on his knee while doing his best to calm the situation in his front, because his front has just gotten fucked over this coup attempt. So to me, that shows weakness. If you want to show, put maybe two guards next to him to show that, yeah, he's guarded, dude, and there's lots of guards around. But yeah, why? Did he have that? Did someone hand that gun to him prior to the thing? Did he say, "Hey, dude, give me your gun while I'm going to do this thing"? Or was he just happen to be carrying it around? Because that's not like it's not something that you don't walk around carrying these things in your hand unless you expect to be attacked. You have your pistol or something in your holster, or you have it slinged across your shoulder or your back or something like that while you're doing things. And if fighting breaks out, you can, when you're the freaking general, not just some random soldier. So what is he saying by this thing? To me, that looks weak. That looks like, I don't trust my troops to protect me from a threat. Ah. What is this? Sorry, so many people don't think I know what I'm doing here, but what is this? Russian Lieutenant Colonel Dmitry Istevsky committed suicide out of guilty conscience for his participation in the unsuccessful meat assaults in 2020 in southern Ukraine under the leadership of General Arkady Morozov. What? I don't believe that for a second. Anybody else here believe that he committed suicide out of guilty conscience? Really? Is this the trigger for the coup? His suicide? And, you know, that. So I'm not believing the suicide bit. Too many people fall out of windows in Moscow. I don't believe it. Don't believe it. I mean, it may be true. I mean, you know, eventually the broken clock is right. That's when they were on the hands. But is this what the head of Wagner Group thought was going to, because he was going to be blamed for the failure at Bakhmut, and he was going to commit suicide? And 19 hours ago, I mean, this is when it was reported, that he got word and realized, oh shit, it's probably going to be me next. Okay, let's go to following and we'll refresh back up here. Get the latest minute. Wagner Group soldiers have some coffee while launching their military coup. Okay, I'm presuming I have not seen the red before, and they're wearing white, but white, I don't know. Yeah, it's unit, so that's the name for it, which is controlled by Wagner. So I do hope all that are here will follow the channel. I normally don't do these live streams. Normally nice short videos, but I wanted to take a look and see what was going on and share with you all my thoughts. Waiting for the aircraft to show up. Like a lot of battles, confusion as to what's going on. That's often quite standard. Is that really an outhouse? Do they really lack internal plumbing in their houses? Russia is strong, but they don't have internal plumbing in houses. Okay, how it started, how it's going. Okay, yeah. H.I. Sutton, very good account to follow. Okay, oh, so he's looking at the Russian Revolution, the olden days. Yeah, that's just what we saw. Okay, I want to skip this. Okay, direction, armed forces Ukraine destroyed a Russian fuel tank. Okay, well. Okay, let's see what Putin has to say. And therefore the actions split our unity, our and apostasy from our people, from our comrades in arms. We are now fighting at the front. I don't really care about his audio because I can't understand it. This is a stab in the back of our country and our people. Such a strike that was dealt to Russia in 1917 when the country waged the First World War. Very interesting. Very interesting. Not from Putin, because we see I mean, what the hell is he signaling with this flag here? And I know up here, the double-headed czarist eagle, is that he's a czar, you know, compared to just the Russian flag. But we see a lot of people, or more people, I would say, flying the Soviet hammer and sickle flag. But so he's comparing this to Russia 1917 when the country waged the war in the First World War. And remember what happened with that. That brought down the czars. Does he really want to equate that to the czars? Putin equates what's happening now as to the Russian Revolution, in which the leaders failed at that. But the victory was stolen. Intrigue, squabbles, politicking behind the backs of the army and the people turned into the greatest shock. Yeah, but it brought down the czars. The destruction, and within a year, by the end of 1915, it should have been clear to the czars that they weren't going to defeat the Germans, and they should have either done a separate peace or backed off any and all offensives and, you know, given some territory up or whatnot. That's interesting. He is comparing, Putin has compared what is happening today to the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917. And the czars lost. The person in his position lost. The destruction of the army, the collapse of the state, losses of vast territory. As a result, the tragedy of the Civil War, Russians killed Russians, brothers killed brothers, yes. And that's what this could theoretically lead to. And various political adventurers and foreign forces who divided the country and tore it apart benefited. Earlier, I asked if anybody remembered when the last time the U.S. Invaded Russia. Well, I'm not sure if we went into Vladivostok. I do know that we invaded Murmansk, the United States, along with the English. I think it was the English and the U.S. invaded Murmansk because there were huge stockpiles of delivered war material worth, in modern terms, billions of dollars. And we went in to secure that because the Reds were moving north out of, St. Petersburg and whatnot. And there was a white garrison there, a czarist garrison. And we sent in just a few battalions in to sort of secure the supplies. I don't know that we ended up pulling any of them out. The British were a bit more interested in trying to politically help, fight alongside the whites. The Americans we were just sent to secure the supplies. No one told us we were going to go adventuring in Russia, so they eventually pulled out of that. So that was the last time that I know of that the U.S. invaded Russian territory. U.S. Army. Okay. Hello, Skull 13. Now it's time for Ukraine to seize Crimea and the Black Sea Fleet. Okay, well, to the best of my knowledge, the Black Sea Fleet, you can look at some of the videos on the channel if you want to later, has been pulled out of Crimea. I'm not saying 100%, but a lot of the stuff has been pulled out and moved over to near... I almost said something I shouldn't say. Near where the Olympics happen. I'm blanking on the name, sorry. been pulled out there. They do have some stuff in the Sevastopol area, but most of it has been pulled out. I doubt Ukraine is capable of fighting its way to Crimea right now, though it might be a very good time to do a local or regional offensive. Sochi, thank you, ABC. Thank you, Sochi. That's what I was thinking. I knew it. For those new here, please, everyone, if you're new here, please like the videos and like the live stream and subscribe to the channel. I normally broadcast, and I will be in a few hours. I normally broadcast history videos or live streams. So live streaming isn't new to me, but this sort of thing is. But for some reason, proper names I get blocked on, even though I know what it is. But Sochi, yeah. A lot of it has been pulled out from there. Yeah, if the Ukrainians are prepared, it would be a good time to push on the Russians right now. I would presume. Okay. Again, I'm saying presume because I'm not there and don't have it. We won't let this happen again. So he won't let the coup succeed and turn into a civil war, according to what he says. But he is equating it to the Russian Civil War, or the Russian Revolution and the Russian Civil War, the Bolshevik one. We will protect our state and people from any threats. I'm sure the czars, if they didn't say that, felt that, including from the international or from the internal betrayal that we are facing is a betrayal of exorbitant ambitions and personal interests lead to treason. Well, I would agree that either it is exorbitant ambitions on the part of Wagner Group, and again, I can't pronounce his name properly, the head of the Wagner. Unless I hear it enough, I can't pronounce it. Then I could probably pronounce it with an American accent, but still that. Either it's exorbitant personal ambitions that he thinks he's going to become leader, or as I saw the colonel committed suicide, air quotes, less than 24 hours ago. Or it was reported 19 hours ago. So I'm not sure when it actually happened. If the head of Wagner thought he was going to commit suicide anytime soon, and is squeezed into the position that if I wait too long, for the tanks and whatnot to show up outside of my headquarters, it'll be too late. I better act now. So either he has been pressured into this, or he does have exorbitant ambitions, I would say. Even if he's been given the green light by certain Russian military high command saying, this Putin thing is just too much. We've got to end this war somehow. We're not going to betray our leader. We'll let you do it. That may be said, but yeah, I don't know. Treason to their country and their people, and to the battle for which Wagner fighters and commanders fought and died side by side with our nation. I still don't understand if the Wagner fighters are mostly Russian. Why aren't they in the Russian army? I get why you do that overseas, like in Mali or Syria or something, so they're not official Russian troops. And Wagner's people may not be a bunch of corrupt cronies that get put into positions just because they're corrupt and, will do the right thing and bribe the right people and sell off the right amount of supplies and whatnot. I get that unless, that these are, picked for some level of talent and experience. So that, yeah, but still you could just bring them into that a bit more. Wagner will disband once Russia precision strikes their leader. Oh, yeah. Well, of course, yeah, I think this is a failed coup, people. I think this is a failed coup. And again, notice everything I'm saying, I'm being very careful about. Like, I think. I'm not saying, so I put in the question mark on the title. I'm not sure, but it sounds like a failed coup right now. Many Russians will join into the overthrow of Putin, wonder if Putin will use this as a reason to lob some nukes. That's already been speculated on. This is too internal, in my opinion, for the nukes. If this was, Ukrainian forces moving into Crimea, moving into Rostov, like if the front had collapsed and Ukrainian forces were pushing into Rostov-on-the-Don or one of these other towns, then you might have the point. I would think that, I mean, nothing is beyond the realms of possibility, but I don't think it's probable. So probably not. I'm really right now probably not. Nukes. Many Wagners are ex-convicts and mercenaries. Okay, well, those are two different things. A lot, like I say, the Schoon 13, a lot of the mercenaries in Wagner were former national soldiers, either of Russia or other nations, that have been used to be efficient soldiers in places like Mali, and that's down in Africa if you don't know, or Syria, that they've been used and operating down there when you don't want to have them flying, a Russian flag, being Russian, occupation. So yes, there's a lot of mercenaries. I do know that there were a lot of ex-convicts allowed to come into Wagner, but I think that is a small percentage of Wagner's forces. So I'm not so sure about that. Okay. Okay, heroes who... Oh, was there one other point I wanted to make about this? Their country fought. Yeah, heroes will be who liberated Solidar and Bakhmut cities and towns of the Donbass. Okay, I know where Bakhmut is, obviously. This is setting up here heroes of Bakhmut and what as to other elements. Okay, we can check this. Okay, let's check this out. They were talking about it's going to be a harsh response, and we'll see if he says that here. I think the head of Wagner, again, I know not everybody's been around. ABC may have been around long enough. The head of Wagner, again, I can't pronounce his name well, sorry, is most likely, I think he's dead. He's going to, I'm not dead now, but going to die. That's, I think, the most likely outcome. Or he becomes the next leader of Russia, or he flees out to the West now that he's a hero in that he opposed Putin and tried to look for sanctuary in the West. And because even if he's successful, and somebody else, because I don't know who is Medvedev, I also butcher his name, maybe to be installed after Putin's removed. I know he appears to be loyal to Putin, but if Putin's gone, he might, I'll be president, and I'll, pull us out. Oh, I never really agreed with the, Ukrainian invasion. We pull out kind of thing and be the international settlement kind of guy. I don't know. I don't know Russian politics enough to have a really good opinion on it. But if it's not the head of Wagner in charge of it, they can't let the head of Wagner live, because they've set up a precedent that the government can be overthrown and you can be successful at it and everything's fine. So they will have to take him out at some point. It could be the old umbrella with the poison needle trick or something at some point, or poisonous food or whatever, like they did to the Ukrainian, I forget which one, but Ukrainian president of some time ago, so that if not immediately, even if he's quote unquote successful in bringing down Putin, the head of Wagner's his time is limited, in my opinion. I don't think the Russians will mass join, but I'm suspicious Putin will nuke Ukraine troops, and I don't think he's going to nuke troops. I don't know that you need mass join of Russians to Wagner's cause. You just need Russian troops not to react. If the Russian troops do not react to Wagner's march on Moscow, and he gets to Moscow, if he gets into the center of Moscow with any sizable troops, I will then believe the Russian military hierarchy is letting this coup happen, and it will only be immediate security forces loyal to Putin that will fight in his defense. That's if he makes it to Moscow, into Moscow. Not, I'm not talking the outskirts. I'm talking into, Moscow city proper. They will stop him. They will stop the march on Moscow before it gets there, or the Russian military is letting this happen. That's the only way I can see this. Hello, Ari. I doubt it will be a failed coup either. Well, I think it's a failed coup. The coup has failed, in my opinion. Again, for those of you who are recently joined, I have a book here, Coup d'etat, a practical manual, written by Wagner Ferguson. I've read it a couple of times, back when it was first published in 1987. And according to his manual, it's a 200-page book, hardbound. You can get it really cheap, about $10 on the internet. It's not digitized yet. I did just check that before coming live. That the first thing you need to do for a successful coup is to secure the means of communication. So back when this was written back in the 80s, that was things like telephone communications. You can never really secure radios, but telephone communications and mass communications like TV and radio, because immediately you want to get on there and broadcast. Your leader has voluntarily stepped down and signed papers that acknowledge your new leader is the correct leader. You want to, even if you still haven't marched on his presidential palace or whatever, or you're on the way to, you first want to create the impression that the coup people are in charge already. So the military, whether it's because sometimes in some nations, and the book goes into the histories of some of the stuff, sometimes it's like the Air Force taking over the nation, or sometimes it's the Navy, like when the St. Petersburg. I don't know if Ari or folk remembers the Russian Kronstadt. I don't know, the Russian ship where the sailors march on St. Petersburg. Back in 1917. Sometimes it's the Navy moving. Sometimes it's the, factions within the army or whatever. So whatever the factions are attacking, you want to get first the mass means of communication. Then you want to secure the political leadership. And then you want to try to secure military command and control, the headquarters, which in the olden days, that was the radio. And so Wagner has, to the best of my knowledge, not secured any of those, even in the areas in which he's controlled. So that is why I say it's already a failed coup. Now, it may continue. Like I say, if he has enough support within the Russian military to let this happen, I may be wrong in that sense, and it may turn on to what would be a civil war, which Putin was warning about. Really, what else is Ari saying? I know some of the people here. It will likely be a temporary thing, likely a concession being made to Wagner. No, Wagner himself is dead. You can't let Wagner survive this, unless Wagner is loyal to Russia. Well, because the next government has to take Wagner out, even if Wagner puts them in charge, because it just sets up the precedent of you get to overthrow a government, and then you get to survive. So Wagner's done, in my opinion, one way or another. Or hurting Russia's progress in a way. Through AM. Everything is. Oh yeah, I'm here just looking at what we're seeing. The Schoon 13. I am not claiming to be an expert or knowing anything more than what we're seeing here, and just analyzing it from a historical perspective. They fought and died for in unity of Russia. Okay, so what he's setting up here so far is that the basic foot soldier of the Wagner Group people are heroes of Russia. They've died in Russia's name. So they, from Putin's view, when the coup fails, they can be turned into army soldiers and go die in the fighting in Ukraine. They won't have to be shot. They won't have to be imprisoned because they're heroes already. They're being betrayed by their leader. Their name and glory will also be betrayed by those who are trying to organize a rebellion. Pushes the country into anarchy and fratricide. Okay, let's, again, I don't need to hear the audio. I just want to see, is there any other? Okay. To defeat as a result and to surrender. I repeat, any internal turmoil is a deadly threat to our statehood. Oh, hell yeah. I mean, it is. Because you can see not just breaking up of the Russian Federation, you can see breaking up of Russia, potentially. I'm not saying likely, but yeah, this is bad. For us as a nation, this strikes on Russia. Is a strike on Russia and our people. It is actually a strike in Russia, not just in the Russian Federation, meaning not one of the auxiliary states like Chechnya or wherever. And our actions to protect against such a threat will be harsh. All who deliberately took the path of betrayal, who prepared an armed rebellion and marked on the path of blackmail and terroristic methods will suffer the inevitable punishment. So either dead or if for some reason they might be useful to keep them alive in some sort of deep, dark prison. So the leadership, that's what I heard this report. But trying to separate. And so what he's trying to do here is to give, and this is fairly smart of him, to give the average Wagner, I know there's some chat here. I'll get to the chat area. You're used to big walls of text. We like you, but I got to cover some of this stuff. We'll get to that. He's trying to separate the Wagner soldiers from the Wagner leadership. Because if he says, you're all dead, we're going to kill you to the last man, which is probably what he wants to say, they will all fight very hard. And a bunch of heavily armed people are going to cost your military a lot to fight to the death for. But if you can separate out the leadership from the average soldier, who wants to die for the head of Wagner? They may be very, very willing to if Wagner gone and said, hey, look, dudes, Putin's ordering us on these suicide attacks, and he's going to keep ordering us on these suicide attacks because he doesn't care about you because you're just some, mercenaries for the grinder. You're dead anyway, so we might as well try to save ourselves by overthrowing Putin, or otherwise we're dead and eventually he's just going to get us all killed. That they would be willing to fight for. But if Putin can make it out going, hey, yeah, dude, you're the hero. We're going to throw you a parade once this is done, as so long as you overthrow the leaders. And who do you want to die for your leaders? No. So I'm sure they're not doing it for the head. And again, I can't pronounce his name well enough to pronounce the head of Wagner's name. So, yeah. The armed force, okay, so they will answer both before the law and before our people tribunals if they get to that point. They probably would like some show trials, admissions of guilt. Armed forces and other state bodies will receive necessary orders. So, yeah, he's going to give out the orders. Okay, I don't know why it jumped up to here. Additional anti-terrorist measures are now being introduced in Moscow, the Moscow region, and a number of other regions. Okay, so this, anti-terrorist, yeah. So this is basically what they're setting up the roadblocks. So excuse our roadblocks and other mess. Oh, we might use this as an excuse. Not so much like I say to, I don't think this is an excuse to attack Ukraine, or particularly attack Ukraine with nuclear weapons. I think this is too internal. But this might be an excuse to go round up and disappear one way or another, or have them all, out of massive amounts of guilt, commit suicide by jumping out of windows. A bunch of Russian critics or dissidents in and around Moscow or other places. So we might see that happen. You can look at going to National Socialist Germany. You can look at the Night of the Long Knives when Hitler moves against Ernst Röhm. They come up with a a big list of other people to pick up, and imprison or kill or whatever, because they do both. Other than just some of the SA leadership and dealing with the aftermath of the Reichstag fire and setting up the Enabling Act, they also use that as another excuse to mainly go after left-winger, communists and whatnot, and again, kill or execute a lot of people. There is just a convenient moment when everyone's shocked over the burning of the Reichstag. So, yeah, they often use these moments to, states like this to disappear one way or another. Sometimes they're laying dead in their bedroom or a doorway or something when they answered the door. Sometimes they were just taken away and never heard of again. But however this works out, or in Russia, not in Germany, but in Russia, fall out of windows. I would not want to go into tall buildings in Russia if I lived there. Okay, decisive actions will also be taken to stabilize the situation in Rostov-on-Don. So again, we're stabilizing the situation in Russia, not in Ukraine, in Russia. The situation remains difficult. In fact, the work of civilian and military authorities is blocked because that means they don't have control there. It means part of Russia is controlled by, well, a non-state actor. But I keep wanting to say foreign, but it's not necessarily foreign. It's a dissident. As president and supreme commander of Russia and as a citizen of Russia, I will do everything to defend the country, protect the constitutional order. Okay, life and security. Well, I'm going to protect his security and freedom of citizens. Like I say, I am not a Russian expert. I do have contact with Russians and Ukrainians and whatnot, and I try to get feedbacks of understanding of what the people there actually sort of believe. I do have people on both sides of that conflict, in the sense of the border, that I in contact with regularly, if not daily, but once a week or so, at least. Do any Russian citizens feel they have freedom? I'm not saying the Russian citizens value freedom. I don't think Russian citizens value freedom. I think they value stability. They don't mind if you can't say a thing so long as things work okay. Meaning you can't criticize the government or the leader so long as everything is working okay. I think they're good with it. He has golden phones. You think Trump is bad, and Trump has terrible personal taste. You look at the things he wants to live around. He looks like, and I'm going to, this would be, sort of a bit of a cultural slander. Looks like he's a Persian. Persians, in my opinion, their taste in colors and gaudiness is god awful. Gold plated everything. I'm not saying Persian people are bad, but just their sense of taste. Trump is pretty bad, but gold phones, 2 of them, 3 of them, 1, 2, 3 handles there, if that were reading that correctly. Different emergency lines. And some of the reasons you might want to do that is for internal or SIG intelligence, harder to tap some of those things versus over the air. The one who organized and prepared the military rebellion, who raised arms against his comrades in arms, betrayed Russia. Okay. And they will answer for it. So again, the leadership is done of that if he has his way. And I urge those who are being dragged into this crime not to make the fatal tragic mistake. So again, he's trying to separate out the average Wagner soldier from the leadership. Whether he ends up shooting a bunch of them or not, I don't know, but he wants to do this. So he's being smart on that. Smart doesn't mean I'm agreeing with his position. I will get to the chats, Ari, and make only the right choice, stop participating in criminal activities. I believe that we will save and preserve what is dear and sacred to us. What is dear and sacred to you, Putin? I mean, what is it? I wonder. I wonder. And together, our motherland will overcome any trials. Let's get even stronger. Okay, so that looks like the end of that. Let's see if I can skim through. I don't disagree. In time, Wagner will be. Oh yeah, one way or another, he's done for. And the coup really says walked into the taking place. No real fighting so far. Yes, that I've seen. I've seen reports of aircraft, particularly helicopters, taken down. Prigoghin, is that how you pronounce the name? I don't know. Just seeing there, I don't know. Folks said that. Folk here said the ZH is like a GD or whatever. We have veterans not ranked, organizations as well. Okay. I know the big walls, but oh yes. Hopefully it'll keep you from going too much. I do want your input, Ari, but we just got to keep it to a minimum. Here, okay. Hopefully hopefully Putin gets a handle on this. He's crazy, but WAG leadership. Well, I could. Let's get a slightly better picture of Putin. Okay. How do I put this? I think the current Western leadership, and I'm talking about Europe and America, does not want peace in Ukraine. What they want is a Putin collapse. I think they could have negotiated a peace long ago with Putin. Yeah, it would have to give up some Ukrainian territory, but, and I'm not saying, I don't know if Putin would have agreed to whatever I might think would be reasonable to satisfy a peace agreement. I'm emotionally fully on the Ukrainian side. I'm not one of these people that is pro-Russia in the fighting in Ukraine, but I try to look at it realistically. I think the Western leaders feel that this is a chance to break Putin, to collapse his regime, not just this coup, but the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and that is why they're dumping so many munitions in it. It's not that they want people to fight and die, though some of them have said that very clearly, with glee. Some political leaders in some governments. I don't mean just some city councilmen. I mean, I forget who, but some fairly high up types. But what they really want to do, and one of them I believe was the Finnish defense secretary or something. I don't know. They want to collapse Putin. They want to bleed Russia white in the war in Ukraine and have Putin collapse. That's what I believe they want to have happen. So I don't think this is a CIA cocked up plot. I don't give CIA that much credit. The CIA couldn't do this legally as a plot unless Biden agreed to it, because they've been told at least not to assassinate. And I don't know if this would count as assassination of political leaders without the president's written approval, meaning they can't just go do that on their own. They can do it, but they have to get a presidential approval to assassinate foreign political leaders. And they're not legally allowed to operate in the USA, so they can't go after USA leaders, supposedly. But so I just see this. Hey, Marcel. The thing is, Prigozhin, is the one calling to start use of nukes. Well, he may have been wanting to do that to save his troops, but I don't see that as useful in this situation internally in Russia. But this, I don't care about the propaganda either side wants to put out. This makes Russia look fucking weak. I have not seen anything like this since the fall of the Soviet Union. I know Marcel was young back then. I do know some of you guys there. We have a few people that are new here, but a few old friends here. but I remember, sitting in America watching from a distance, watching the siege of the Russian White House, and those events. And whether this comes to that or not, meaning whatever building Putin is in gets besieged by Wagner people, I don't know that it is. I'm not saying it is going to become that, but I think, he will probably use them if he wins. Oh, well, I think my guess, if the Wagner leader wins, why does he need to continue the war? I don't. You just secure if the Wagner leader wins and becomes the next leader of Russia. And again, that's the way I see out for him really likely to survive this. I don't know that I'm not saying it's likely that he can become the leader. I'm just saying that's the only way I see him to survive this. Because again, if he succeeds in bringing down Putin, whoever replaces Putin is going to want to take this guy out. So you just secured all of Russia. And you're the new leader there, whatever you want to call yourself, president for life or whatever the hell, the czar, I don't know. Maybe, hey, Ari, maybe he'll come up and claim to be a descendant of, the Romanovs, who knows, the Wagner guy. But why does he need to care about fucking Ukraine? He needs to get his own country and control in there. So I bet you he would immediately start talks on, if he gets in control, on settling the Ukrainian issue. My guess is he would withdraw his forces from the Ukraine if Ukraine officially gives up Crimea. But give back the Donbass, give back all of that stuff, and just take the Crimea as official, internationally recognized and approved, even by Ukraine, of Russian territory. That's what I would try to do if I were in his place. The USSR sort of gives you the energy of this, although I'm not an expert to that degree. Yeah, no, I'm seeing this in the terms of watching the USSR fall is part of this. Again, I want to say for those new here, I know some of you know me, and most of you in the chat right now. I am not a Russian expert. I am not one of these people who claim it. I do not speak Russian, in my opinion. If you're an expert on anything, you need to at least speak the language that things are happening in. Otherwise, you are not an expert. You may be well informed, but you are not an expert. You may know a whole hell of a lot more than your average news reader, but you're not an expert. Well, they do sort of have a somewhat, Putin is using a czarist reminiscence. I don't know how close it is to the last Nikolai Russian eagle, double-headed Russian eagles here. So I'm not so sure they wouldn't go down that route for that. Not that I'm saying he is a descendant of the Romanov. Stop this. Of the Romanov. I'm just saying. Okay, Slava Ukraini, so pro-Ukrainian. Wagnerites promised to be one of the first to execute Strelkov. Okay, I don't know who that is. Strelkov. Okay. Yeah, he made the wrong decision. I get you're going to say that. Again, this is just from my following feed and doing it in order. Looking to see again, we're looking and analyzing what we're seeing, and from a historical perspective. I do want to claim very much that I am not an expert on this. Yeah, they're supposedly taking down Wagner billboards in, like join up to Wagner to go die in Ukraine. Recruiting. Okay, here we go. Okay, 1 hour ago. This is from Defense Intelligence of the British Military of Defense. So this is, MOD, Ministry of Defense for Britain, Defense Intelligence statements. Okay, so take that for what it is as a source. I've found them so far to be generally correct. They have a viewpoint, but not just promoting rumors. Okay, in the early hours of the 24th of June, 2023, the feud between Wagner Group and the Russian escalated to outright military confrontation in an operation characterized by Prigozhin. I guess I need to learn how to say his name. As a march for freedom, Wagner Group forces crossed from occupied Ukraine into Russia in at least 2 locations. In Rostov-on-Don, Wagner has almost certainly occupied key security sites. Again, I don't know what the hell that does for them. I mean, what does occupying a building mean in the modern sense? You need to control the means of communication. So like the buildings that the cell phone networks all tie into, so that you can turn them off, or you can turn off particular people's cell phones, or whatever it is, including the HQ which runs Russia's military operations in Ukraine. Yeah, okay. Further Wagner units moving through Voronezh Oblast, almost certainly aiming to get to Moscow with very limited evidence of fighting between Wagner and Russian military forces. Again, I will say we saw what appears to be, one estimate, about 180 Russian troops, we'll call it, that looked like they surrendered to Wagner. They had been disarmed and didn't have equipment, but otherwise were not overly under guard, but all standing in a mass group at what had been like a road checkpoint, pre-built facility. Some have likely remained passive, acquiescing to Wagner, like I'm saying, is because I don't think they fought. I just think you're showing up. Okay. Over the coming hours, loyalty of Russians' security forces, and especially the Russian National Guard, will likely be key on to how this crisis plays out. Hey, crisis report. Yay. Giving us a shout out. This represents the most significant challenge to the Russian state in recent times. Well, absolutely. I mean, we have not seen anything like, we have Tiananmen Square. What was that? Oh, I forget that. I forget the date of that. Sorry. I want to say 1989, but I'm not sure. That was a very, very serious challenge to China, and to the point, I don't know, because again, I watched that all live on, 1989. Thanks, folk. Watched it all live on television. And it just seemed, because 1789 is the French Revolution. So was it that year, the same year? And I get, 200 years later, yes, but people say history doesn't repeat. Well, it certainly seems to be. With that, you had the massive, massive protest, not storming of the palace behind it, because it was just a freaking palace behind it. It's the old it wasn't government buildings. It was just the palace and whatnot behind it. As simple as big protest that they called out the army to disband the protest. And the army refused to disband the protest. So they sent the army home. I'm just telling you the story. And then they got units from like Inner Mongolia, not Outer Mongolia, Mongolia, that's the separate state, but Inner Mongolia, which is part of China, but basically Mongol Chinese army units, not the army from in and around Beijing. That army was mobilized, surrounded the protesters, but hung out with them, basically. So they sent all those guys home. They sent them home, back to their garrisons. They made sure they did that first. Then they brought in the foreign or non-local and just Mongols in to come in to crush. And that's who came in and crushes the Tiananmen Square. That's who does the massacre. So that was a very key part, because whether the local Chinese military was like, hey, yay, counter-revolution or new revolution or whatever, whether they were that or, hey, we're not going to shoot our family. That's my cousin over there or something, in the protest. I don't know the reasons why they refused to do it, but they had to get in different military forces. So I've not seen that since 89, as folk is saying. And then in the 1990s, with the collapse of the Soviet Union, we have not seen major powers go through things like this in something other than, fucked up third world countries like, what day of the week is it? Which coup in Haiti? It's just, things like that are going on all the time there. March for Freedom, Wagner. Okay, key sites would likely control economic. Yeah. No, well, we don't. They need to control communication. That's what Wagner needs to do, is get a hold of radios, TV, and internet communication hubs, because all those little cell phone towers all report into major networks, and they need to get a hold of those. They need to get technicians in there who know how to turn things on and off without, preferably, because you also want to be able to use it. They may have, like an America does for its internet, if they want to send out emergency alerts periodically. Here I get somebody's been like a kid, a child has been kidnapped, and they they're looking for the person. And when I'm sitting at home, I'm sure that they're not in my home, so I don't pay attention to that. But if you were wandering around and looking for, white car, well, I see a bunch of white car, but so they might have, emergency alert systems that they could get on and control. So they need to find somebody who knows how to operate that system, shut down non-emergency alert communications. I would be shutting it all down in every area that I controlled, and putting out emergency alert type notifications, and just say, death to Putin, or long live Wagner, or whatever it might be. Putting that stuff out. A year ago wasn't anything like Winnie the Pooh getting occupied. Yeah. Okay. Actual fighting happens between forces I can't see. No, it is a coup. It is a blow to the state. Coups often happen without shooting, Harry. Often. Though this looks okay. January 6th. Again, I don't know if you were here, Schoon, when I talked about that, or the Schoon. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to pronounce it. That is a protest that gets out of hand. Absolutely. That has maybe a few extra Capitol security police on duty at the time, but they got to watch all the way around the building, and it gets out of hand. Absolutely. The only reason they use insurrection for the term is because legally in the United States, if you've been found to commit insurrection, you cannot run for political office, because that was post-American Civil War law put in. That's even been challenged and whatnot. But they're trying to keep Trump and Trumpites from ever running again. But every single time they've tried to push through the courts, that definition, that has failed to come out. So yeah, this is nothing. I don't know where you are from, Schoon, but a lot of people get the wrong impression of what really happened. They way overblown January 6th as to what happened there. Nothing like that. Yeah, smokescreen, someone's robbing the coffers. Maybe. That could be, but I think you rob coffers now digitally. So, okay, so that's an hour old from British Ministry of Defense. And so far, like I say, everything I've gotten from the Ministry of Defense seems solid. Okay, so these guys, if you don't know what this means, but these are people putting their faces on this. Okay. And yes, this could be a disinformation action from Ukraine, but probably not, seeing these two gentlemen are Eastern Russians, shall we say, because there are a lot of people that are Russian citizens. I'm not talking about the near abroad, but Russian citizens that are not ethnically Russian, or whatever we'll say, in the sense genetically. So probably the Storm Z fighters on the front line say they support Prigozhin campaign against the rats in the rear. Yeah, I think there is a lot of this is what we were looking at before here. just with a effed up watermark. A lot of dissatisfaction with the way the war is going.
Не ожидал.
Okay, pause. I want to read this, not listen to this. Okay. A difficult time. Okay. Russian state propagandists, and again, I don't know. I know James, who left a while ago, was disappointed. Didn't know who all these people were. I'm not an expert. Vladimir Solovyov breaks his silence. I'm now returning from somewhere. Okay. A difficult time. I wasn't expecting to live to see this kind of thing. I visited the musicians, Wagner, and I saw heroes, okay, in the region 1 hour ago. So this may be post Putin's speech. I saw our volunteer soldiers and officers. We need a march on Lviv, on Kiev, and if necessary, even further. So he's wants to push into Ukraine. But when you watch what's happening, you wonder what's happening. Yeah, well, like the Russian Revolution, that's what's happening. I'm not saying it's Kornilov revolt, Mussolini's march on Rome. Okay, he is familiar with history. What we're talking about for Russians. Okay, see, he's getting that this is, are we really going to allow civil strife now? Well, you're getting it. Don't know what allowing it means. I mean, what are you talking about allow this? Let's look at Ukrainian media rejoicing. Well, yes, the enemy is over there in Ukraine. Why are Ukrainians your enemy? Oh, because you're invading them. There's nothing more frightening than civil war. Yeah, I'm not yet calling it a civil war, but that is what this is likely to turn into. Okay. Wagner. Been close to win World War One. Oh yeah, no, Russia was doing terrible in World War One. We've read his speech, I believe, in its entirety. Okay, let's go. Getting back. This is in chronological order. Or it should be. No, it isn't. Where? You want to go fall? Oh, well, maybe it's the lower bits are down here later. Okay, yeah, 1 hour ago. Yes, this is 2 hours ago. Oh, 1 hour. I wish this was more chronological order. Okay, well, let's do a refresh here. Okay, 2 minutes ago. Okay, hold it, pause. Let's get this full screen here so you guys have an ability to see some of this. Okay, radar truck. Looks like the radar is on. What are they? I want to contact. We're curious. All right, manage to down assets. Here you go. Okay, radar. Vehicles. Okay, so this is supposedly a Wagner column that has radar operating, shooting down Russian assets, supposedly. Okay, there's a armored fighting vehicle on a carrier. So they haven't deployed, this column hasn't deployed its armored fighting vehicle from its carrier, so it's not immediately concerned about ground attack. Okay, that's a couple of BMPs of some sort, like BMP 2s or 3s. Hard to tell from here with this blurry. But all those new here, remember to follow the channel. You can also like the live stream. That does help. Okay, so they're letting traffic by. So these people in both directions, they may be pausing it to, you know, one column by at a time, but they're not blocking it up, which means that if they block up too much traffic, okay, anti-aircraft gun looks like it's manned and ready to shoot. Might become too much of a traffic problem for them to move. Oh, Russia was doing good. Oh God, Airy. Oh, you're in Western Virginia or Eastern Washington. Okay, you're in Eastern Washington. Very good to hear. Probably the non-woke part of Washington, if that's why you're specifying that. Good to know. I know where Aries from. No, Russia was doing very badly in World War One. Aries sometimes is a little delusional about history. I know World War One. Yes, you probably do know World War One better than I, but Russia was doing very poorly in World War One. I'm sorry. It did so poorly it collapsed. That is a pretty big column. And I did look at some earlier footage of, I believe, this column and was wondering about some of the vehicles in it. But yes, they look like civilian vehicles. I don't know how officially owned they are by Wagner or recently acquired. You know, like that bus, it's probably carried a bunch of troops up here. Did they pick it up yesterday, or has it been in their inventory for like a long time? I just don't know. But they have not felt... Okay, now that's an actual tank. Again, with all the reactive armor on it. I don't know if it's probably a T-72, but I don't know. Russians did bad at the start, but they had some of the great offensive in the war. They saved the Western allies from a lot of strife. I'm not saying Russia was not defeating Germany. That was the point. Another Russian tank. Okay. If that's part of the column, I'm not sure, or just maybe... I think I'm guessing those trucks are just commercial trucks that are sort of stopped in traffic. Okay, so supposedly Russian or Wagner. You know, hard to tell now. Just because somebody says it, posts it, I don't know if it's true. This is Wagner or Russian army, or just why the hell would you give this to Wagner? I mean, you just have Russian army operate those kind of things. Now, maybe it's in league with them. Okay, Wagner Group just shot down an AN-26 transport plane of the Russian Air Force over Vorozhev region. They also shot down 3 Russian military helicopters. Yeah. Visegrad normally is very good, but I'm just not entirely trusting. Meaning I think they're wanting to take all good news, all news that sounds good to them and repost it. Not saying any of it's wrong, just saying I don't trust it. For some reason they're blocking out the watermark, it looks like. Yeah, this is probably where they got it. 9 minutes ago. What is this? Okay, now with a sigh of relief, we are happy to announce that our boys in this video are live. But this place no longer exists. This house, which became temporary roof for our heroes, is destroyed by bloodthirsty Muscovites. We did not start this war, but we must finish this. Okay, this is our Ukrainian thingy. Okay, not dealing with Russia. Okay, Kherson Oblast 15 minutes ago. Retweeted. Billy Netflix. Yeah, this is one of the helicopters that he downed. Okay, it's definitely a helicopter. It's definitely crashed, very likely shot down, probably by Wagner. I mean, that's not disputing any of these facts. I'm just not taking the statements as... control of the, you want to lie to deceive your enemy. So I hope people are lying in warfare or they're not doing their job. So when I criticize whatever side for maybe not telling the truth, I'm not so much criticizing, I'm just commenting, I guess, on the very strong possibility of them. Okay, yeah. What's Ari saying? If those political issues never happen, no, I'm not agreeing with you, Ari. The soldiers lost confidence in their leadership. I do not think the average Russian soldier who revolted in 1914, or not, no, sorry, in 1917, were much convinced by Bolshevism at that time. I think they were just sick of fighting for a war that they had no understanding of why they were fighting for. Back. Chechen soldiers to fight against the Wagner. Okay, so the Chechens are fighting against Wagner. So, hero of the West and of Christianity is using Muslim mercenaries to fight Christian mercenaries or atheist mercenaries. I don't know if the Wagner Group are particularly religious, but yeah, there's like Arabic writing there, and the only reason he's using Arabic is because that's the Quran, and Quranic sayings are only supposed to be done in Arabic, so they're not mistranslated. Okay, yeah, we saw that video. Again, more trucks driving by. Okay, hold on. Okay, again, whoever this is moving another, like T-72 or something, T-80. I can't tell. I don't. When I'm not that great on late war Russian tank identification, and they're a bit blurry. Images. Now, do understand, I don't know if you know this, but the United States Navy knew last weekend that the Titanic mini sub thing imploded because they heard it. They listened to the seabed. They heard the implosion. Now, some people are speculating, why didn't they tell people this earlier? And want to speculate on domestic U.S. political reasonings. I don't know. But maybe they hear a lot of, or hear explosions often down there, various submarines playing submarine games. So they might not have been sure that it was that, just that there was, a loud bang down there. The race to find the time, how ill-equipped flying doctors ill-equipped to deal with space station retrievals. Yes, that's how stupid that quote is. U.S. Coast Guard is not there to rescue submarines or people in submarines. But that was they monitor the seabed. Is what I'm saying is the American Navy has. I mean, back, and I presume, I don't know how much they've kept up with it, but they've used to have a lot of sonar buoys during the Cold War, monitoring particularly the Atlantic Ocean, but also out in the Pacific Ocean. And I still think some of these systems, I'm pretty sure, as we've just found out with that, the U.S. Have already have air defense system. Why is he calling them a terrorist? Slava, Ukraine. The U.S. government is watching these columns move real time. They might not, and they're probably listening to a lot of the communication going on. Oh, what? Okay, I saw these trucks earlier. Gray. Okay, they have a Z marking, but they're gray with a red stripe. I don't know what that means. I don't know that they're armored. That's definitely not an armored cab. I don't think that's armored. maybe lightly, but I don't think so. So I don't know what those are. I mean, they could be even some sort of corporate logo thing. Okay, the currency would have worked. Oh, Ares going on, trying to defend the impossible that Russia was about ready to defeat Germany, and then Lenin showed up. No. Russian Wagner Group convoys heading towards Moscow. Right. Now, I have long said, oh, I want to see what's over here. Just a second, talking to someone here. So one of the people, I don't know if we'll get anything interesting out of that. I've often said I don't see Ukraine marching to Moscow, but if Wagner can get that road convoy to Moscow, that's showing one how super weak Russia is right now, because if they don't have forces to stop Wagner, Finland can march to Moscow. I mean, Finland's better equipped than Wagner. So is it a case of the Russian army not moving to block Wagner's? Is that just the case? Which, may be the let's refresh here. 1 minute ago following. Okay, so I know you didn't say, but I don't know why you want to keep arguing about World War One. I think my opinion that Russia was not doing terribly well is shown by history. Whether one offensive or another would have succeeded, I'm not arguing that point. I'm arguing Russia was being bled white and only kept in. Russia in World War One is very much like Crimea today, in that, sure, and they were probably producing more domestic ammunition and rifles than they were importing from foreign sources, yes, but huge, as in hundreds of thousands of rifles were being produced in the United States for Russia. Millions of rounds of small arms ammunition in the Russian caliber were being produced in America for Russia. Millions. This is above and beyond everything else they were producing for, other nations in that war. And I'm sure larger artillery shells. I don't know so much about artillery being produced in America for Russia, but a lot of stuff was being fed into Russia, and to the point that some guy in Taiwan is having sexual harassment problems. But okay, I really don't care what. Okay. Okay, that's the Russian military headquarters that we saw them besieging earlier. So now Russians are worrying about being in the line of fire when Putin reacts to it. Okay, well, I don't know that there's much more to cover right now. I do follow some of the better. Follow some small arms companies here. I also follow those on other. This is just things I'm following that should hopefully be okay. Okay, yeah. Okay, so oil depot in Voronezh, which the Wagner people have supposedly made it to, has broken out on fire. Now that could literally just be the Wagner people showing up to get fuel for their trucks and their vehicles, and some soldier with a cigarette. I mean, literally, it could just be that, not any great big sabotage effort or Russian military strike. I mean, that kind of thing is soldiers, hurry up, get fuel, put it on trucks, fill up the trucks, because you got a long march to go. One of the greatest marches in history was the U.S. during the now called the Second Gulf War, was the march from Kuwait up to Baghdad. That, in its rapidity, is literally one of the greatest marches. I know they were doing it in trucks and tanks and whatnot, but they weren't through basically all that march. They were driving the tanks on the ground, not on tank carriers. And what is fabulous about it is how fast it happened, and the ability to fuel all those vehicles and keep them moving that fast over that long of terrain. So marching from Rostov-on-the-Don, they talk about what from this Voronezh, I don't know, put 6 hours drive. Well, that's presuming that you're getting in the car and driving at like 60 miles an hour or something like that. And that's even pretty fast from looks at the distance. It's a long ways. And so military columns, even just driving, can't do it that fast. You got to stop and give everybody potty breaks once in a while and make sure the people are fed, and it's going to take longer. But you got to have fuel for all those vehicles, and you don't want to run out of gas at some point. You don't want to have and small gas stations will run dry very quickly, filling up all those vehicles. So you don't want to be running around looking for gas. So showing up at an oil depot, which I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm presuming it's maybe a fuel depot or a refinery of some sort, and fueling up a bunch of vehicles. And you very much may want to, fill up some tanker vehicles or whatnot. And so, yeah, I could easily see, again, some Russians smoking a cigarette, catching a bunch of shit on fire. Okay, in other news, an asteroid is going to fly close by Earth this weekend. Well, interesting. Big dumb claim to make, considering the situation. You're so far behind. They have been. Yeah, I know they have been. 360 chill out. I know they've been there. But we're seeing this 1 minute ago here, this post, that supposedly there's a big fire broken out. I don't know that they've I don't know that they've that all of them have left this facility. I don't know what's going on. I'm not claiming to know what's going on, other than this is a minute old and there's a fire broken out. And I mean, this post is a minute old. Not that it is that there. And we're seeing here, okay, again, 3 minutes ago now, according to this fire. So I'm just looking at the situation as I'm finding it here on the internet, because I do not have the satellite coverage that the U.S. government has. This is the column we're talking about. 23 minutes ago, this was posted by Caliber Obscura. But I've seen this before from a few hours ago. Well, an hour or more ago, probably. they're just going through and reposting this. So yeah, and we're going to see how far they get. All right, well, yeah, people are getting upset at this. Again, 5 minutes ago, this was posted by Visegrad 24. And hello, Dolph Lengrins. Apparently they have 25K troops totally. Are we supposed to believe that they will assault the Kremlin? Skeptical. Yeah, no, like I say in the title, I think this is a failed coup. And I've very clearly been saying I don't know what the hell's going on. I am very clearly saying I don't know what the hell is going on. So yeah, I'm just looking at what I'm seeing reported and trying to analyze it, which is a very small picture. What is defense intelligence? Internal Russian confrontation between the leader of so-called Wagner and the military political leadership of the aggressor state is a sign of collapse of the Putin regime. Well, it's definitely not a sign that Putin regime is doing well. That's for damn sure. Have we seen any army versus? No, I have. Well, okay, yes. In downing of aircraft. Supposedly an AN-24 has been down, and 3 helicopters supposedly have been downed. Definitely we see here, this looks like a large transport airplane. You can see the sort of flames around the watermark there coming down. That was been identified as an AN-24. I know it as an old Soviet era transport type plane. Well, I don't know. Bigger, you guys can see that better. Maybe there's coming down. That would be military action, and we've definitely seen what has been reported as Wagner column with the radar on, meaning the radar array spinning around in a circle. So I'm presuming it's actively on, and reports of 3 helicopters shot down. I'm going to scan here. I think we can quickly find here's a photo of one of them that is supposedly downed by Wagner. So other than mixed reports on okay, so here, I mean, obviously I'm not saying that this is an authentic photograph. This could be an old photograph, but I've not seen this before, and it's reported today. So if this is a today photo in Russia, this is probably a Wagner shoot down. I have clear visual evidence of at least 2 downing of aircraft. So we know that's happened. But taking over the military command of the Rostov-on-Don headquarters, all of it looks like confrontation. Appears no fighting. I almost said no shots. I don't know if somebody may have fired up into the air or something, but no ground fighting as of yet. Okay, Russian. Okay, this is Ukraine weapons tractor helicopter, presumably Mi-8. This was shot down by Wagner forces today in Voronezh Oblast. 2 of these electronic warfare helicopters reportedly shot down. Okay, so yeah, and I know what an Mi-8 is. I didn't know what that is, but if this is specifically electronic warfare aircraft, it very well may be like a signal intelligence situation in which they're putting them up there to try to identify and listen to the enemy communications. Because if you don't know their phone numbers and you don't have terribly sophisticated network, you might not know what phones they're talking on to hear what they're saying. So they may have been trying to fly around and get intel on. And Wagner's people sees a helicopter up there, not sure what it's doing, and decides to shoot it down. So yeah. So this is definitely happening. Does anybody have anything questions? I don't know that I can answer them. I can comment on them. Okay. Okay, the oil was okay, so this is saying not clear which side belong. Okay, so they're saying that this. See, as long as there's new stuff here. Okay, well, apparently, because we'll just see a helicopter flying away and explosions. Nice shot of the helicopter. That may be what's going on there. So I don't know if Wagner has any air assets. I haven't specifically ever heard of them having air assets, so I would guess that this is a Putin helicopter. Were there? I know it was criticized saying that they've been there for a while, but was this that I know this post is 5 minutes old. I don't know how old the video is. Probably not too much longer than that, as in a lot more than an hour or two. Were there Wagner assets still believed to be there and targeted by the helicopter, and maybe get the oil depot on fire? Because that's more than one or two tanks going up in smoke, being hit by fires and cooking off. Air traffic really strange over Russia right now on flight. Oh yeah, that would be a good thing to look at. I heard another Merc group joined with Wagner. Well, the Chechens are supposedly, and I saw a report, coming in anti-Wagner. So, and somebody's putting boobs on Putin. Oh, interesting, if this is true. The Liberal Democratic Party, whoever's party, which is third largest in Russia until now, a Putin ally, just tweeted Putin is a pussy and put boobs on Putin. Interesting. So now, just when I was getting ready to quit. Okay, so now we have somebody, and I'm going to take this at face value here with Visegrad. I don't think they'd make this up, and this, because again, I don't read Russian. This is probably the official account. So their official Twitter account, somebody posted that on. Could be hacked, but I'm going to presume not. That they've just now criticized Putin in the midst of a coup. Very interesting. This is getting into the political elements and not just that. I know it's silly, Dolph, but it's showing that whoever has control of this Twitter account could be a quote unquote intern, or it could be, whoever this guy is. Sorry, again, I'm not making any claims at being a Russian specialist or Russian expert here of what's going on. It could be this guy himself has tweeted this in the midst of a coup. You don't do that and then, oh, sorry, yeah, no, I didn't think I was going to do this and end up in the gulags. No, you just bet on who's winning or losing the coup/civil war, and you may or may not be on the right side of it. So yes, the Liberal Democratic Party, the Ultranationalist Party that is pro-Tsar. Okay, thank you, Ari. Countless other things. Yeah, well, I'm not taking it. So Ari a while ago was laughing at my idea or whatever that Wagner guy, keep wanting to say it German style, the Wagner guy might claim to be a descendant of the Romanovs and try to be the next czar. Well, maybe they're setting that up there. Okay, so we see flatbeds carrying tanks here. Tanks moving towards Moscow. Okay, now that very well could be the Russian Army's response or National Guard. Not. Terrible things went on in the Congo. Yes, we know. Yeah, Putin's tried to do that for a long time. Or he used to do that more in official reburials and other sort of respect for the Romanovs. I at most I thought he would ever possibly do it as a pure ceremonial post. But I think Putin sees himself as a czar. Maybe not a Romanov, but a czar. As Ari says, Putin sort of, de facto. His party might as well be the czar and the Soviets. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, there's the downing of that. Okay, they're saying it's at IL-18. Okay, no, okay, so twin turboprop. Okay, I don't know. Again, I am not the person to do the identification of some of these vehicles. Yeah, well, I mean, that's what Franco did, was set up to have and set it up to have the monarchy come in when once he died in Spain. And I don't know if Putin has a son. I don't know. I really, quite honestly, don't know. But he doesn't. But he definitely doesn't have any sort of heirs that are, taking a public role. I'm not saying, if I looked up Wikipedia, it's hidden or anything. But he has no family members that are taking public roles. So he is definitely not looking at any sort of multi-generational thing, because you would, if you're looking for multi-generational, you would have whoever the next person is have a job, do something, be the ambassador to America, or minister of transport, or something that makes them look good and does that. So yeah, but then again, you have to remember, Franco was not a maniac. Franco never invaded a foreign country, as far as I know. I mean, Franco didn't even start a civil war. The civil war started. I'm not going to go into the whole Franco situation here. I have on my other YouTube channel. But, Franco is often Tenerife on the islands in sort of internal exile when the whole civil war breaks out. And then he gets flown to Spanish Morocco, and then he gets his former troops to get flown by the Germans into Spain to win his side of the Civil War, and then he pieces out. He doesn't go into World War II. He, asked by, for sure, Germany. I don't know if the Western Allies ever really asked him to join on their side of the thing. And yeah, he let his radicals of the Phalangists create the Blue Division. And, oh, you guys want to go fight in Russia? Oh, yeah, have a good time fighting in Russia, no problem. Go out there and do that. Yeah, he let that happen, certainly. And then after things got too bad and enough pressure from the Western Allies, he calls them all home. A few hundred stay out there in defiance, fighting the Bolsheviks. But he pieces out. And otherwise, compared to what say the Russians did after the end of the Soviets did after the end of their Civil War, Franco is very lenient. I mean, yeah, there are executions, but those are mostly people that they can tie to actual crimes, if you want to call them war crimes, or whatever. I don't know. Okay, so don't there put this up here. Okay, helicopter. Let's view that. Okay, well, that's the helicopter strike there. I don't think a helicopter's down on that one. So, during the Soviets, I'm referring to the party as well, right? Or no runners up to fill the shoes of the Soviet generation. I don't know exactly what you mean by that statement, Dolph. NATO boosters claims that there was no runners up to fill the Soviet shoes of the Soviet generation. I don't know, because, Gorbachev realizes the Soviet Union's collapsing, um, decides to, I would say, he's still an evil bastard Soviet, but decides to try to soft land the Soviet Union, meaning not try to, hold on to the last, every little bit. And it goes over to the drunk and very happy um, guy who I think, all things considered, I mean, he does sort of allow the again, for the conspiracy theorists who think that there's always a group that runs around and puts pallets of bricks near places to have riots. Here's some pallet of bricks here at the middle of this. I don't know whether that supports your claim that there's always pallets of bricks that somebody's conveniently placing, or just there's often pallets of bricks around that just happen to be there. I don't know. Booster, okay. Just that he claims there's no one to follow up after Putin. Oh, yeah, I don't know what Putin's, exit strategy, or post Putin world is he sees. Louis the 14th, and asked in French, and I'll answer part of it in French, is asked at one point by like a minister or somebody, I forget who, I know it's recorded who, asked, well, what happens after you're dead? Now, he does have sons, to France, because of all the wars and all the conflicts that Louis the 14th has been fighting in. What happens to after France? What happens, to France after you're dead? And Louis the 14th turns to whoever it was and says, et toi et moi. I am the state. So, to Louis the 14th, what happens to France after he's dead? Well, France is dead because he is France. He doesn't care about, he only cares about what he is doing while he is alive. And that very much may be Putin. Putin may be Russia to him. Yeah, and I agree that I don't see Medvedev is the only person that I see, but I've been sort of laughed at when I've suggested his name. I just don't see anybody else, and I see him more as a puppet for the oligarchs than like a strong leader. Just like, oh, Putin's gone. Who do we put in charge now? Oh, we'll put this other guy. He'll do what he's told. But I am not a Russian expert. I am not saying that is even likely. I just don't know of anything more likely at the moment. Okay, Wagner forces have shot down, yes, and well, they're saying in 26, whatever. Releases news statement saying Russia is corrupt because Putin and that. We will destroy everything around us. We are all ready to die. All 25,000. Okay, whatever. I don't trust these numbers. And then another 25,000 because the Russian people must be liberated. And then a very sort of aggressive thing. This is by Physigrad. I don't know if it was taken from that statement or just a stock photo that they have of him. Chechen dictator called armed rebellion treacherous and stab in the back. Yeah, all these dictators will hate this. Adding that Chechen forces are already dispatched to conflict zones, no matter what the goals they describe to you, no matter what promises they make to you. The security of the state and the unity of the Russian society are paramount at such a moment. Very interesting from Chechnya, the saying that this. I remember when Chechnya fought the Russians for their liberation. I guess if you beat them, you give them enough spankings, they'll like you, like a whipped dog or something. I don't know. Look at how our enemies in the West are taking advantage of the situation. On Telegram, supposedly said that, according to Chechen dictator, armed rebellion will be stopped by harsh measures if necessary. I think they're willing to use harsh measures. Alexander Gustav, the governor of Russia's Oblast, wrote on his Telegram account that within the framework of the counterterrorism operation Oblast, Russian forces were conducting necessary operational and combat activities. So Meaning if you're getting shot at, you're just a Russian citizen, you're getting shot at. Sorry, but it's necessary because of Wagner. A lot of my other Ukrainian source posted a different one, but it was also was a Let's Go thing a few hours ago. Okay, Polish President Andrzej Duda wrote that he held a meeting with his prime minister and ministry of defense as well as with the allies due to the unfolding situation in Russia. According to Duda, the course of events is beyond our eastern borders, monitored on an ongoing basis. Right. Well, there is a lot. I saw some JP. Is that like as in JP Morgan? I'm guessing. I don't know. Nationalist types during. Well, maybe I don't know. Okay. Kara Futo. Oh, Japanese. Okay, sorry. I don't know. Oh, Japan. Okay. Sorry. More specialists. More specialists have to make moves before this becomes serious. Well, this is serious. Okay, no, this is serious. Like I say, and I don't know if Dolph was around. I'm old enough to have watched the fall of the Soviet Union. Again, from sitting here in America. I'm an American, if you can't tell by my accent. So watching it from sitting in America, we've not seen this in Russia since the fall of the Soviet Union and the coups and counter coups and whatnot going on at that time. And the other major state that we saw this is in 1989 in Tiananmen Square in China. We have not seen things like this since then. So, okay. Wagner had said in a voice message pushed by that his actions of betrayal. Now, so Putin is the betrayer here, according to Kiev Independent. Now, of course, that is again because we don't want the country to continue living in corruption, deceit, and bureaucracy. Now, I just saw some footage of supposedly somebody moving around, in possible ground fire or something. I don't know. I wasn't very clear, and I don't know that people were very clear what was going on. But around one of these Wagner groups, and it looked like a modern version of the outhouse in the back of whatever Russian house this was. Meaning it was a little shed that was easy to stand up in. Could be a garden shed. It could be a garden shed, but it was sort of but it was square and tall. It could be a garden shed, but I wonder, is that an outhouse? Do these people really still in the 21st century, somewhere in not far eastern, not far weird places, but in central Russia, still not have internal plumbing? I don't know. I'm asking not for a friend. I'm asking for myself. If you chill out. We did see that there some footage of a chopper flying around that, though I did not see any footage of an actual missile launch or gunfire from the chopper. So whether the chopper was investigated to investigate the fire or whether the chopper started the fire, I do not know. But you're right that there is definitely a chopper there at some moment. But if you still don't have internal plumbing in your farmhouses, oh my God, people, get your economy working so you have internal plumbing. Even Erie has internal plumbing here in America. So hey, we are patriot, and those who oppose us today are those who have gathered around scoundrels. So that's Kiev Independent there. The more we delve into this, it shows more and more that everyone is taking part in support of the war, but against the high command. I mean, there are places in America that lack Okay, Ari. They're very well made. Now, okay, summer hunting camps, temporary accommodations because of backpackers and hikers, wilderness people, maybe. But if I lived in Alaska, I would do one of two things. I would either have indoor plumbing or move the fuck out of Alaska because I can be poor in California and live homeless in California and not be freezing in Alaska. I do not want to go freezing to go to the toilet. Go outside to go to the toilet. If you're still doing that in Alaska, yeah, I know pipes and water freezes, but figure out a way to do indoor plumbing in Alaska in winter because I'm the fuck not going out and living in that kind of environment. And nobody in America is so poor that they can't go be poor in another city that has indoor plumbing and get on, welfare in America. Okay, let's watch. Now, is this that oil facility here? Our supposed oil facility? I don't know. That's definitely a Russian attack helicopter, that's for sure. I don't know the number of it, the exact model, but yeah. It sounds like they have Chihuahuas here too, Ari. Definitely the tower's sort of looking refinery-like. They see another helicopter over there. There's a second. Okay, they turned away from the other one, but was that a helicopter crashing? I mean, they turned away from it, but was that a helicopter crashing? So I don't see the helicopter still up there, and that I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't. My people use well water in some select if you don't have power. Yeah, but I would still well water. I'm not talking about well water or main water, but I'm talking about internal plumbing versus external plumbing. Okay, here we go. Okay, he's flying away, and that just went off. Okay, so that was probably the first one. So that was probably an attack by that helicopter. We just didn't see it. There's at least 2 helicopters operating. One was more off over here. He went over and attacked something. And that is not just like an armored fighting vehicle or truck. It could be a big fuel truck going up or a big storage tank held by the Wagner Group. Okay, so, and again, yeah, the Wagner Group was probably still there. I mean, they may have also moved along the road too. I mean, because columns can split up. But they're trying to deny Wagner fuel? Maybe? I don't know. Okay, Russia's now bombing oil depots to prevent Wagner Group from refueling. Again, like I say, not impossible, but it's difficult to supply a large convoy if you don't have big supplies of fuel. Meaning, dispersing your convoy to go foraging around for various gas stations, go fill up your trucks here and there, or whatever. You don't want to do that, okay? Because you lose command and control. And these guys in these trucks don't know this city or whatever regions as they may move along. So if they all like go foraging, like, oh, I'll look over here for gasoline and see if we get any. Catching back up, I know everybody has here in America now, in-car maps or whatever, and they may have them on their cell phones, but still, you can get lost, you can get separated, you can really have problems. Yeah, just more of that. Okay, here is maybe the fuel thing. What is this supposedly saying even? Oil depots. Okay, so this is supposedly that fire there that they hit. There's firemen putting out, supposedly. Again, I don't know that it's correct. Yeah. So far, it only seems that air assets have attacked Wagner. And I say air assets because I don't know who's controlling the helicopters. In the American service, helicopters are Army, fixed wing aircraft, and this is almost universally so, are the Air Force, unless we're talking Navy and Marine Corps, which of course can, both of those could have fixed and rotary wing aircraft. So I don't think Russia has that large of a naval air force in the midst of Russia that they're using that. Oh, what's how many more reserves can Russia command fight Wagner? They're pretty well invested in current. Okay, well now here that's an interesting question / point. How many? A whole hell of a lot, because it would be criminal negligence, shall we say, to take all of the military forces that are sitting up in whatever the military district of St. Petersburg region, facing off Finland, to send them all into Ukraine and leave that whole frontier unguarded. It would also be criminally negligent to take the military forces sitting, well, whether Belarus / facing Poland. They do have, and whatever's in Kaliningrad, the little sliver of land between Poland and Lithuania. Well, those are too far away to do anything. But there's got to be military forces sitting around, whatever military district that's facing off against the Baltic states. Then Dolph, I've been hearing a lot that coming this spring, there's going to be a massive Russian offensive. It's going to crush Ukraine. Just you watch. Blah, 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 blah. No, it's summer now. Well, hey, this summer there's going to be a massive offensive that's going to come and crush Ukraine. Blah, 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 blah. I keep hearing this. Not always with, shall we say, pro-Putin people, I would say, but some people that are either anti-U.S. interventionist. Doesn't mean you're pro-Putin. It just means you're sick of all these damn foreigners. You don't want to mess with them. Or people that are just pessimistic. So it's not always this. And so I've been waiting for that shoe to drop. And because we've not seen any serious, massive Russian offensive. We've seen incremental advancements, particularly around Bakhmut, often with Wagner's people, though they had been recently withdrawn. Teach you there, Putin, you withdrew Wagner. Those troops were no longer at the front. So there was no massive offensive, big encirclement of Bakhmut or anything like that. So there's been no massive offensive. There's been incremental advances. What I have been thinking is that, and the way they should do something like this, and I know I'm an armchair general on the other fucking side of the planet, but the way you should do it is not like, oh, this week a new battalion shows up, let's put it into the front line. Next week, another new battalion. And the week after that, another new battalion. No, you want to organize up the forces, get tank forces, you may still dribble in some, replacement equipment and troops to the front line, but you want to organize up a bunch of fresh forces. I know they withdrew a bunch of forces at different points in the war, so get some veteran units, train them up with a bunch of new recruits added to them to get them up to strength, get all the tanks there ready to go, get all that ready to go, get them into place, and then go crush your enemies all at once. So you want to get all of that organized up. If that force exists, if it does, somebody like, people keep throwing around CIA. Well, there's a lot of, the Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA, they have a lot of satellite assets, and so they're watching and listening to Russia all the time. They know whether this force exists because they'll see it training up, through satellites. I don't know. I'm, again, no special information here. If this force exists, and is willing to, could easily go in and block, fight, maybe crush Wagner's groups. Because especially if he's even that big convoy of 70 or so vehicles, which is a lot of vehicles. And if you're, some of the vehicles look like they're carrying 4 people. Some of the vehicles look like they carry 30 or 60 vehicles because there are a couple of civilian buses. So I don't know how many people in that, but at least, a minimum 4 people, because some trucks look like they're just like 2-person truck. So let's say on average, if there's 4 persons average per 70 vehicles, so you're looking at, about 300, about 300 plus people in that column. So a 300 plus column coming up there, that's strung out over how many miles doing whatever. Yeah, that's easy to crush. Even if there's 25,000 Wagner people somewhere, hanging out, that one column is easy to crush. So if that force exists, like I say, the ready reserve force that was going to go in and crush, that's got to be somewhere. And they can't, and there's Russian forces sitting over on the Chinese border. There's Russian force, and I know that's too far away for this, but there's other Russian forces that have to exist that aren't dumped into Ukraine. Those forces, if they're willing, have got to be able to oppose Wagner. But maybe the guys are just sitting in the barracks waiting. Oh, well, let's go fight Wagner, and the commanders are not telling them to do anything. Just hang out in your barracks. So I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, I can't imagine that there isn't reserves somewhere to do this. Not likely they call up more green. But yeah, but you calling up green people, yeah, but you should be training up some good stuff. Russia has been bleeding themselves without. Oh, Ukraine has been bleeding themselves without. Yeah, and well, if you, I think the offensive operations that Wagner around Bakhmut has been part of has been bleeding Wagner, and I think that is part of what's going on here. Is that, are you going to die fighting in Ukraine, or are you going to die fighting Russia? And they may have decided to die fighting Russia. I retweeted that. Okay. User's address opposing situation. I have the. Okay. Ukrainian. All right. Well. Okay. I think we will. They want to fight in Ukraine. I don't know if they want to fight in Ukraine, but okay. I don't know about that. Why is my, okay, well, my stream health seems to be poor here. I don't know why it's doing so bad. Drop frames, I see, yeah. Okay, well, had been excellent before. All right, well, I think I will end this here for now. I hope all of you who are interested around have subscribed to the channel. Let's see, in about 5 hours, I'm scheduled to do a different live stream on a different channel. We very well may, I'm not going to promote that channel up right now, but I may talk about that. So if there are new significant developments, I will either make a video and post it on this channel, which I normally try to keep those to, try to keep them 10 minutes or so, just to hit up the topics. And I try to only post good information that I can, get the best, best information I can to you people. But this is more just chatting and analysis of what we're seeing. So like I say, subscribe, and we'll be back when more interesting things happen. So thank you, Dolph, Ari, I know Marcel was here, Scoon, I don't know, some of the other people left, I presume. Folk, if you're around, thank you all for your input. Do appreciate it.